of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Well, here we are. Let's try that once again. I know technical difficulties happen from time to time, and the beauty of the digital format is that we can always download it, upload it again, and try it from there. So I'll need you to make sure that you are making other people know we are here. This is the last Silence of Our Friends podcast for the year. So as you're coming in, well, I did see Abraham Smith. Oh yes, thank you, sir, for that. Those words, very interesting assignment. But I was glad to be in the presence of brothers and sisters. So thank you for saying that, sir. So welcome in. Type in the subject as you are logging in and as you are sharing. Make others know that we are here on this, the 29th day of December. And again, this is the last podcast for the year. And beginning next year, hopefully, we will come 1 to 2 times a month, not every week. So we'll adjust because there are a lot of other things that I'm having to try to, how do you say, manage and give better, more explicit attention to those things. So everyone share. And once you do that, come in the chat, the comment section, and type in that you have shared, that you're here with us for this, the last podcast of 2025. And then type in the subject, if you will, JFK. That stands for, you know it, John F. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, had it right. Now what? And I think this is going to be interesting tonight. And again, I need to make up for some lost time. Good evening to all who are coming in. Please make sure and share if you're on Facebook. Make sure you share, and Facebook will take care of the rest. If you're on YouTube, share, use the share icon, the share button, and follow the instructions. And then please make sure you have referenced your platform. In other words, if you are a Facebooker, make sure you have a YouTube access. And then if you're a YouTuber, please make sure you have Facebook access so that you can join us at any time should there be a crash. And there are crashes from time to time. And right now, it looks like everyone here is a YouTuber, part of our YouTube audience. And but we're hot on Facebook as well. So everyone share if you haven't already. Now type in your favorite emoji. Make sure people know that you are here. And of course, I think this is going to be interesting. There are really 3 things I need to do tonight. And again, I'm Georgia Matthews II. For those who are not familiar with our platform, I'm your black shirted, and in this case, sweatered egalitarian. And an egalitarian is a person who stands for the equal rights of all people, regardless of race, regardless of caste or class systems, regardless of where they live, geography, regardless of whether they have melanated skin or not. The equality of all persons. Again, we came in on Alicia Keys with her rendition of Lift Every Voice, and this tells us that every voice has a place and has significance. And I want you to type that in the chat. And I want to get that in your hearing spirit. I have a place. I have a voice. You know, it's kind of like a ministry. And those who don't know me, I am a full-time pastor. And one of the first things that has to happen in ministry is that people have to find their voice. When I say that, I mean, and that's what really spiritual fathers are all about. That's what, if there's a benefit to, and there is, of denominations and that sort of thing, it's where people help you to find your voice, the reason for which you were called, your particular assignment, your particular niche in the earth has to do with finding your voice. It's the same way in professionalism. One has to find their voice in their chosen field or career. finding your contribution, what it is you, by the virtue of God, have been called to do. And so every voice has a place, every voice has significance. And how long do we do this? Find the significance till earth and heaven rings, a non ending significance that tells us. And then we sing with harmony, with joining in with others with this united cause. And the cause is that of liberty, this non ending purpose of, if you will, the fight. Again, we're here to represent the goal of what I believe that to be the goal of all right thinking, correct thinking people. That is an egalitarian sort of mentality. Dr. King has three statements, many statements, probably hundreds, but there are three that we use as sort of the stamp for this program. Of course, Dr. King on the issue of silence said in one place, what will be remembered in the end will not be the words of our enemies, but in fact, the silence of our friends. Then he said in another place, there's nothing in the world as dangerous, and please hear this word, dangerous, as sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And I believe we are faced with both worlds colliding, sincere, those of sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And then finally, he made this statement to us today prolifically and profoundly: our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And then again, it's this thing, the reason for our being here is to help supremacists, people who believe in the supremacy of a person's or of a person or of a people, of a demographic by way of race, strictly and solely that of race, that which the church does not deal. The first century church didn't deal with it. Over in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, after the church has exploded, 3,000 members in one day at the day of Pentecost, Acts chapter 2. By the time you get to arrive at Acts chapter 4, the church has had another explosion of 5,000 people added to this thing they called or referred to as the way. And Jesus, of course, said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And of course, it stuck. And they referred to the church as we know it today as the way. The way of Jesus was the implication. And now the church has 8,000 members. And by the time we get over to Acts chapter 5, we discover that there is an argument, a dispute that has broken out in the church. As it was then, so it is now, 2,000 plus years later, where the Grecian widows, these are non-Jewish widows, have a smaller dispensation or allotment, allocation to them, financial allocation, than those of the Hebrews. And so they took supremacy, that the Hebrew women, the Jewish women had more entitlement. It started right there in the church. And so there's this argument between the Hebrews and the Jewish women on the subject of race in the church. Jesus has just been resurrected from the grave 50 days before, and he's seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven. And yet in the church, not a church or some of the churches, but the one central church, the universal church that there was at the time on the earth, the visible church. And there's this dispute. And so they brought this matter to the disciples, then apostles, those who were sent out, first learners, disciples, and then afterwards apostles, those who are sent out to accomplish the mission of Jesus. They bring it to them. And these apostles kick it over and raise up another office in the church called deacons. And the deacons, they put them over this business of settling this racist issue. So it was never dealt with then. It isn't dealt with now. And so we have to have podcasts such as this. We have to have meetings such as this, where we discuss these issues as believers and followers of Jesus Christ. What do we do about the subject of racism as it relates to the Lord's church? And then secondly, what is the disposition of egalitarian or correct thinking people? People who do not believe in the inferiority of races, nor do they believe in superiority of races, because they believe that by one blood, God made all nations of people. So supremacists and racists, you have to consider this when they're over education, whether it's whether it is religious education, spiritual education, or whether it's the education that comes secularly from the school system, public, whether it be public or private school, but when supremacists and racists over education, and then spiritual mentors, they control the world. Yes, the world, by deciding how much one can know. Everything you now know, someone taught you. And then, secondly, everything they taught you is not all there is to know on the subject. So then we speak here at the Silence because it is necessary to ensure that others know we are alive and we have a voice, and then that of the issue of being due equal respect. So here are a few things I want you to consider. We're here to deal with learned helplessness, and if there's anything I think we should have reconciled by now, it is this psychological therapeutic subject of learned helplessness. And this is a state that occurs after a person has experienced a stressful situation repeatedly. Somehow they come to believe that they're unable to control or alter their situation for the better, so they don't try. I.e., they don't vote. I.e., they don't register a complaint. I.e., they just know their place. Okay. Even when opportunities for change become available, we can call this conditioned control. Everything is a matter of conditioning, a matter of the opposite of that, self efficacy. What are you doing to bring, first of all, yourself up? You've flown before. Have you flown before? Yes, you've flown before on public aircraft, and they tell you, as it relates to the air travel, they give you this sort of security or safety information or presentation about 30 seconds to a minute, minute and a half, by the flight attendants there in the aisle. And they tell you, as it relates to the masks, that in the event of any type of an air uh, craft challenge, there will be safety masks of oxygen that drop out of the ceiling. And they tell you, first of all, put them, if you're traveling with small others, place the mask on your face and then place it on the child or the small other with whom you may be traveling. Why? Why? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you will not be around to take care of someone else. So self efficacy, as it were, deals with how do I elevate my own thinking, find my voice, then elevate my voice so that I can be efficacious or effective for someone else. It was Albert Einstein who said, if I remain silent, I'm guilty of complicity. I'm complicit. Yes, there are authoritarian dictators who are in the land, people who believe in this one man supremacy and emperor type leadership. But again, if I'm silent on these issues of wrong, then I'm just as guilty, but I'm complicit with the obvious wrong that was done. Then again, the great cop out of the church. I'm just recapping certain things. The great cop out of the church, and this is what makes one of the things that makes the church so weak. When Jesus said in St. Matthew chapter 5, "You're the light of the world. You're not the light of the church." He gives this integration of the church and the world in one verse. I think in St. Matthew 5 and 13, 14, 15, 16, all of that deals with this subject of light. You are the light of the world. You're not born again, born from above, to be hands off from the world system and the world's wrongs. This is not the teaching of Jesus. What did I just say to you? This is not the teaching of Jesus. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world, a city that is set upon a hill whose light cannot be hidden." He gives us another metaphor. He said, "No man takes a candle and puts it covers it with a bushel of a cover, but he puts it on a candlestick. Instead of putting it under a bushel where it can be hidden, he places it upon a candlestick so that all that are in the house, all that are in the city, all that are in the state, all that are in the nation, all that are in the world can see the light of the city." And so there is an integration. There has to be an integration. How else will the world's system um, ever be introduced to light? Wrong thinking people, how will they be corrected if you're just in the four walls of your church and your church has no integration with the system of darkness, which is temporarily or at this time under Satan's control? So we're people who speak truth on all issues. Jesus said, "You shall." St. John 8:31-32. Then said Jesus to those Jews who followed or believed in him, "And you shall know the truth." And then the truth, once it is known, the truth will make men free. So there are seven mountains or systems of influence that are world shapers. You don't have a civilization. You don't have a systematic order of living until you have influential factors that shape it. What is it? Proverbs chapter 9, verses 1 and 2 tells us that there are seven mountains, seven shapers, if you will, seven pillars, Pillars, that shape the world. The mountain, and here they are, of religion, Islam, you have Buddhism, you have Baha, you have Christianity. It's a very small, minute number that is evidenced in the world system of religion, but this shapes the mindsets of men as far as their morality is concerned, which the question of racism is akin to that of morality. Then, of course, the family mountain, the shaper of culture, comes from family. Mothers and fathers have a powerful influence over their families in the absence of one or the other. Then, of course, the mountain of education. Education is a powerful, influential factor. And then the mountain of government, which includes politics, the matters of voting, understanding how government in a particular country works, the political structure, which governs the rule in most nations. This mountain often overrules the other mountains. It has the powerful impact that governs the system of your geography. And then, of course, the mountain of the arts, celebration, recreation, movies, music, sports, and entertainment. Then, of course, the mountain of media. Then finally, business and economics, which go hand in glove. Food and agriculture are a part of that. Now, good evening to those who are joining us. Make sure you shared. If you haven't, please do so. Press the share icon, then type it in the chat that you have shared. And I want you to I wish for you to please indulge me. This will help us push the needle forward. Others who may not know we're here, they will then begin to know we're here with the more interactions we have in this digital space that we're currently occupying. Please type in this hashtag. That's the Shift 3 number in your keyboard if you are familiar with the home keys or the keyboard of a typewriter or computer, whatever else have you, or just find the old symbol for numbers or the old numerical symbol, and then that's a hashtag now. So hashtag out of Egypt I called my son. Out of Egypt capital I, called my, capital M, son. Then capital S, out of Egypt. And remember, put all those words together, no spaces. Remember, no spaces. Out of Egypt, I called my son. Now, this is interesting. I'm going to ask you a question or two, but Hosea chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. Okay. And this is what people never want you to know. They'll never talk about it. They'll never give you any type of space on this. Everyone, please press share again. Everyone press the thumbs up. That's a like. And well, I just did it 5 minutes ago. We can do it as often as we like. This helps other people who have subscribed to our platform to know we are here. And please make them know you're here by typing something in the chat just now. Now, Egypt. So this is central. Now, where is Egypt? Where is Egypt located? Egypt is, and I want you to just get this, Egypt is a country within itself, but where is it located? What continent? What continent? What continent is Egypt? When you start talking about the Middle East, you're really starting with Egypt. And I'm just asking you now because no one, I was ashamed when I discovered that the whole of Egypt, everything in the Bible, which is a Middle Eastern book for the most part, we have westernized it by Miguel Angelo's renderings of the Last Supper, which all of the disciples look European to me. What about you? Jesus at the time of the civil rights movement, or let's just say even before that, around the time of the Civil War. All right, the Civil War is engaged circa. This is approximately 1862 to 1865 ish, somewhere in there. You have this Civil War, and that is the war regarding enslavement of Black, bronze, and brown skinned people in America. All right. And so it's the North versus the South in some people's minds or history accounts. And in the others, it is the war between the states, the northern states versus the southern states. The northern states were pro freed men. This is where the Underground Railroad, as it were, and had the system set up to bring the slaves who would venture for their freedom to the North, because for the most part, the Northerners were freedmen, or there were people who freeing the slaves thinking people, let's say it that way. And the Southerners, the 13 or 14 states there, were mostly were all Confederate. That term, a confederacy, the conglomerate of all those states who had in their programming something that was bigger than all of the municipalities. They had all of the other economic driving engines. This was larger than the railroad. This was larger than everything else that the South had going on. It was larger than banking, railroad. If there's another one, everything that the South at that time in the 1860s had going. Slavery, the enslavement of black skinned people, was more economically um, an upheaval for the six or some odd percent of plantation owners. Well, where were the other Confederates? They were white skinned people who thought they were just as good as, or they would have their turn at bat, so to speak, as the plantation owners. Yeah, it was only 6 to 7% or so of the plantation owners who were actual enslavers. The other 92, 93, 94% of white skinned people just associated themselves with this mentality. And so when you talk about that, right around the end of the Civil War, when it came to an end, you had this, how do you say this, this sort of immersion of colorizing, giving pictorials to the Bible. Yeah, to Bible stories, because, and this is the same time you had statues erected regarding civil rights icons, the most heinous white men in that history would ever reflect, if the truth is ever told. They erected statues to remind people that though the Confederate War was lost by the South, thank God for those gains that did come out of that, they would remember the heinousness, the evil, if you will, the civil rights, the equal rights amendments 13, 14, and 15 to the Constitution of these United states, uh, were referred to as that because they came out of this period of time, this epoch, if you will, of time. And so it was with the same giving this, you see, whatever pictures you see or don't see will shape your thoughts. And this is what our counterparts, our white skinned counterparts, understood about giving Eurocentric pictorials in the Bible. They understood that whatever you see, or if you see yourself in your white skin, you see white skinned people in the Bible, of course, you will begin to believe that white skinned people are God's supremacy. And that's the idea that they attempted to sell. And if Black people never see themselves, it shapes the way you think about yourself until you know the truth. And this is why Jesus said, you must know the truth, because it is only then that the truth can set you free. So here's a little prophetic scripture out of this small book in the Bible, named after its author, Hosea. And Hosea, by the time he gets to the 11th chapter, verse 1, God inspires him to write these words: "When Israel was a child, then I loved him and called my son out of Egypt." Who is his son? Oh, well, it has a dual meaning. Israel, the people of God, they have been referred to as the chosen people. Israel is a metaphor referred to as God's son, God's family, right? But who came through Israel, the Jewish lineage? Jesus Christ. So the dual meaning: the family of God, symbolized by the word son, referring to the Israelitic people, as well as more specifically and dually, Jesus, the Son of God. But out of all that, I've called them out of Egypt. Now, where is Egypt? Egypt, let's go over to this chat. Let me see if you all are still tracking with me. Egypt is in Africa. Thank you, Connie Demand. Yes. This is why I'm asking you this question. Yes, thank you. Egypt is in Africa. Shirley Miller, thank you. Abraham Smith, Africa. E. Hale, Africa. Faith Walker, Africa. Yes. Myra Lee, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now. So the question is this: why did God say out of Egypt, I've called my son? Well, hear the rest of the verse. Please hear the rest of the verse. Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. God said, when Israel was a child, then I loved him, as a metaphor, again, a dual metaphor. The children of Israel, the nation of Israel, referred to by the word son, and then dually, Jesus Christ himself. As they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed unto Balaam and burned incense to graven images. And so God is showing how his people had gone after false gods and strayed away from him. And this is what the Old Covenant, the Old Testament really typifies. But I wanted you to see that God prophetically said Israel would come out of Egypt. God prophetically said that Jesus Christ would come out of Egypt by way of Israel. Now, when you talk about Egypt, these are people who speak Arabian yeah, that's the language, or Arabic. That's what I'm looking for, Arabic. These are the people who are in this region considered to be the regional power in the Middle East, North Africa. Now, my contention is, problem with this is you can't be from the continent of Africa, whether north or south, east or west, and be white-skinned European. Now, I am not attempting to create division. I'm just attempting to give to people the thing that God himself said. These are dark-skinned people. They might not be as dark as the darkest African as we now know it, African or African American, even in this country, but they're dark-skinned people. And God says you should have a healthy esteem of yourself, because even Israel were people of color. I'll wait for you all to get back on the bus. I know somebody's probably passed out, and you definitely don't want to hear me say that, but it should give you a serious resonance with the things of God. What is it that God is saying and has said? Okay, now I'm going to play a clip for you I just want everyone to see this for a minute. I want to play a clip for you, because you all like that when we do that from time to time. And I want you to see this, and just we're going to talk about it, but just listen, and then I'm going to give some some clarity, if you will, to the clip. All right, are you ready? Let's go.
Mr. President, what does this reserve represent?
These reserves are the product of labor, extraction from black people, and taxation over generations.
These reserves didn't appear on their own. They represent extracted labor, withheld wages, and taxation on indigenous people collected over generations.
Every black family in America deserves a dozen of these bars. Ownership. Equity backed by assets, not promises. That's how you correct a ledger. Returning capital to the public, reinvesting directly in black communities, and acknowledging that the reserve is not separate from the black people it serves. Transparency means acknowledging that gold, silver, and commerce belong to the black indigenous people of America.
Only gold and silver can be money. It is a matter of just sanguines, the right of blood. The aboriginal races are the heirs apparent to this more
Accumulated residue of a prior civilizational order. These holdings, gold, precious stones, cultural wealth, are remnants appropriated during the Federal Reserve is a private maritime lender, an insurance underwriter operating under Admiralty law with no constitution. We have allowed international bankers to use the Moorish estate as surety, while the true heirs are miseducated. The Federal Reserve exists to manage public trust. If that trust was built by excluding the indigenous people who generated the value, then a debt exists. We must restore the Republic and recognize the proper person at law, in propria persona. Without that, we are merely custodians of a stolen inheritance.
What say ye? What are you all saying out there? What do you think about that? This is what I mean when I say JFK had it right. Now what? Now, I'm going to leave the chat open. I want you all to give me your thoughts. And some of you are looking at this like, oh my gosh, where has this footage been all my life? How did he find that? What is that all about? Well, whether this is an AI JFK, artificial intelligence JFK, or the real JFK, I think that the thought is what I'm really after. I have not been able to, and this footage belongs to where it's stamped on the video that I just played to you because I want that person to get their credits for it. This is I believe, because I couldn't find this anywhere. I wish I could find this. This would be a great program. But the AI JFK had it right. Let's just say that so that we'll be safe. So no one will say I'm giving out misinformation here. But whether this is an AI, artificial intelligence, JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or not, this JFK had it right. Because what stuck out to you from what he said? First of all, yeah, Charles, you're right. That's very deep. And this clip proves exactly why he was taken away from us so soon. Yes, whether this is the AI, artificial intelligence JFK, or the real, and I haven't been able to find nothing to back this up. So I think it may be the AI version of JFK. But nonetheless, it's very masterfully done. And yet it communicates where JFK was in his lifetime and why it was. And who is it? Faith Walker says this. It says it's exactly what I'm going to bring up in just a few minutes' time. But I think we're on safe ground here. And the rest of you are quiet. You all are. I'm not going to say anything to that. The entire chat has gone dormant. But here's my point. There's no evidence of any classified or unclassified footage that I could find of President John F. Kennedy stating that the U.S. gold was a result of Black slavery. This claim is a persistent piece of misinformation, some say, and is not supported by historical records, legitimate sources, or the extensive archives of the JFK Presidential Library and Museum. Researchers at the JFK Library and fact-checking organizations have thoroughly debunked similar false, what they call false quotes and classified plot quote unquote, claims attributed to the former president, Kennedy, delivered several historical speeches on civil rights. His televised address to the nation on civil rights in June, notice the year now, 1963, where he addressed racial injustice and the need for equal rights, but never made a statement connecting U.S. gold reserves to slavery in this manner. Now, so the historical accounts tell us that everything, most things that he was about as far as civil rights, as far as black or black skinned, dark skinned people in this country, African Americans, let's just say brown, black, and bronze skinned people, everything that related to JFK and hence his assassination, if you let me tell the story, was pro the situation where black people found themselves in this country by way of slavery. I'll prove it. Stay with me. The same was true. Go ahead and do your research, study it out. The Gettysburg Address. How does it start? Every fourth grader in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was raised in fourth grade, had to learn the opening paragraph of the Gettysburg Address, but no one told us why the address was being made. Or maybe I missed it. Maybe I was asleep in the class. I always loved history, but maybe I missed it. Let me just say that. Allow me to say that. But I never saw the association of the Gettysburg Address. No one ever told me that I could remember that it was connected to slavery, that it was connected to convincing this nation of the ills it had done regarding the enslavement of black-skinned people. I never connected the dots. Let me just put it on me. Maybe I was on the slow bus, my own for myself. I never connected the assassination, as it was told us, of then President Abraham Lincoln to his stance regarding the Confederate War, the war between the states, the war between the North, the war between this. I never connected the dots, even though it was the same period of time. He was assassinated because of his connection to the ending of slavery. JFK, these are my personal opinions based on my historical analysis. JFK was assassinated, if that was the case, just as Dr. King was murdered, if you let me tell the story, just as was the case with JFK's brother, then Attorney General Robert Kennedy. I don't even want to say that name too many times because of who we have representing the Kennedy family in this present administration's cabinet. But nonetheless, all these people were assassinated, if you will, because they had something to do with the idea that enslavement was wrong. Black people were never given a fair chance in this country, and that there were reparations due people of color. And there was this need for this country to repent from its initial sin, the horror of enslavement. I was reading something. I had to make a trip out of town a few weeks ago, and I was reading something in my travels about the egregious, and that's an understatement, horrors of enslavement of even women. And they enslavement was worse. The punishment, the penalties, the work was worse on men of color. And this is why you saw slaves look like they were 90 years of age, and the average slave in this country only lived to be 30 or 40 years of age, or somewhere in that network of time. But I was reading something that said that one of the ways that they controlled women, Black females, was I knew about the mutilation of body parts. I knew about runaway slaves having their foot or toes cut off to attempt to prevent them from running away. But I was reading another article that said to me that often Black women's breasts were cut off with no anesthesia, just cut them off. In enslavement, they would have to patch up their wounds as best they could if they lived through it, and go on. Now, they didn't want to kill them. They wanted to maim them because slaves were seen as chattel. There was chattel slavery, and then there was general slavery. Chattel slavery, the slave belonged exclusively to his or her master, and they were treated like a possession. They were treated like animals. This is why the word chattel is very closely associated with the word cattle, because you never ask cattle how they feel about a thing. Their feel is unimportant, because if they're slaughtered, hey, you're here for that purpose. If you want to be moved, you're here for that purpose. You had to behest in the will of the owner. And so the egregiousness, the horrific mutilization of body parts was also part of slavery. And there were the people of the South who didn't want to let that go. That mentality is still in this country, and the church is quiet on these issues. And consequently, you have racism in the church. You have more value given to white-skinned people, and that same value subtracted away from people of color. But the point is, the Kennedys, and in this case, JFK, John F. Kennedy, then president, had a voice regarding the mistreatment of people of color. The JFK Library provides comprehensive access to the former president's papers, speeches, and recorded conversations. You know, FBI and J. Edgar Hoover were recording conversations of the president. So it was with Dr. King, so it was with Bobby Kennedy, so forth and so on, none of which contained the alleged statement. Okay, that's my disclaimer. John F. Kennedy's most significant statements on Black inequality came in his landmark, quote, end quote, report to the American people on civil rights, end quote, speech on June 11th, 1963, where he defined civil rights as, quote, end quote, a moral issue, and proposed the comprehensive legislation that would become the Civil Rights Act of 1964. If you remember, Dr. King muscled in on the then vice president, who became the president, Johnson. I think it's Lyndon Baines Johnson, who became the president once JFK was assassinated. And he signed this, what is known as the Civil Rights Act, which was kind of the packaging of all of these rights that were then, I'm watching my words here, given loosely to people of color. Now, notice this. Kennedy presented racial inequality as a moral issue, asking whether all Americans would be granted equal rights and opportunities. He highlighted the hypocrisy of advocating for freedom abroad while denying it at home. Kennedy also noted that a century had passed since the Emancipation Proclamation. Yet Black Americans were still not truly or fully free. He emphasized that injustice affects anyone and exists throughout the nation. Kennedy called for legislative action to end oppression and ensure equal access to voting rights, public facilities, education, and employment. Okay, so then we can see where his life was going. So if this is the AI Kennedy, the actual non-AI JFK still had it right, because watch his major actions. Number one, beyond these statements, Kennedy's administration took concrete steps, including issuing the executive order. This is what executive orders are supposed to be used for, number 45/47, Executive Order 11063 in 1962, which prohibited racial discrimination in federally funded housing. His administration nextly utilized federal troops and the National Guard. You'll remember that in some of the black and white flicks that I grew up watching, that made me understand Mississippi's hatred of people of color, that coupled with Alabama as a state's hatred of people of color, and the southern states, but Mississippi and Alabama were really outspoken. It was Kennedy who used federal troops and the National Guard to enforce integration at the universities, of Mississippi and Alabama in 1962 and 1963. You'll remember George Wallace, who stood in the doorway of the University of Alabama and said, what? What did he say, class? What did he say? Well, he said a lot of things. But what did he say about integration? What did he say regarding the subject of integrating Black people coming into PWIs, predominantly white institutions, or all white institutions at the time? What did he say? What did George Wallace stand in front of the doors of the entry of admission, the admission door? That what do you call it? What do you call it? Admissions doors of the University of Alabama. What did he say? Let me come over here and see if you all are talking back to me. You all are quiet over here. Yes, this country has a history of euthanizing truth tellers. Absolutely true. True, Pastor. I suggest everyone read, quote unquote, Medical Apartheid by Harriet A. Washington. Yeah, that's, I have not read that one or heard that book, but I'm telling you, they don't talk about this situation. I like your story. If I'm telling the story, as someone said, I like your story. It was that Connie. Yes. What did George Wallace say? What did he say? You all aren't telling me? Yes. Segregation, Faith Walker. Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. That's the opposite of integration. Segregation meant the separation of people, students who qualified to attend a university by passing some nationally standardized test, I would imagine. This all kind of predates me, but I would imagine, being restricted from admission by the Office of Admissions on these university campuses solely based on the color of their skin. This president also was, see, the AI version of JFK, which this clip might be, but it reflected the mentality of the actual president, because finally, this actual president, John F. Kennedy, proposed the comprehensive legislation that became the Civil Rights Act of 1964, signed into law. I was referring to that earlier, by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. So it wasn't Johnson's idea. It came from that which had been set up on the course of passage through his predecessor, John Kennedy. So Kennedy's words and actions represented a significant change in the federal government's approach, demonstrating a commitment to a just society for all Americans. So again, is this what caused this president's assassination? My gosh. Now, I want to just see what you all are saying, but I'm going to give you one other piece of information that was put out. Man, you all are so quiet over here. Maybe you're learning, maybe you're processing, maybe you're learning and processing. Maybe that's what you're doing right now. Let's just see. I want to show you one other thing very quickly. We got to get out of here. Let's see if I can find, where did I load that? Where was it loaded? Let's see if I can see it. Not that, this. All right, stand by, watch this. Now here you have, I pulled this, if you will, from the Department of, there's a website. Let's do it that way. There's a website, and I'm going to keep that up there for a minute, called the U.S. Department of State. And this was on the actual website, which is, okay, I'm going to bring this word up, and I'm going to use it about 3 times, but I want to keep this picture there, the pic, so you can see what I'm talking about. This is propaganda at its finest, all right? One day after Donald John Trump, number 45/47, because we don't like calling names, names give life. You'll get that by next Wednesday. You'll be into the new year by the time you see what I'm saying there. Anyway, this man just gave orders or ordered, let's just say, the bombing of Nigeria. Now, before I get into this, I'm coming back over to the chat. Can anyone tell me? I'm keeping the picture there because I want you to stay with me and I don't want you to go get your ham sandwich just yet. All right. Can anyone tell me why? Man, are y'all still there? Man, nothing in the last 5 minutes. Can anyone tell me your thoughts? Okay. Why are our brothers and sisters, black skinned people, our carmelated skin, melanated skinned people, our cousins and dozens over in Nigeria, why did this president bomb Nigeria? I think it was Saturday night, this past Saturday evening or some Saturday. Nigeria has had extensive bombing coming from the United States. Why? It's the same reason. This is me telling the story now. Why have you seen these quote end quote drug boats from let me first of all, I've got to watch my terminology here. Can anyone tell me, and I just discovered this about 2 weeks ago. Okay, Bernice Redden, she said oil. Yes, Nigeria has some of the most valuable oil reserves and other natural in the entire continent of Africa, actually. I think the largest number, he bombed Nigeria starting, I think it was Saturday, the day before yesterday. And I think can anyone, okay, I'm going somewhere with this. Can anyone tell me why you keep seeing this administration bombing those ships, not even ships, boats? I'm going to call them boats in international waters these last few weeks. Why do you keep seeing that? I read somewhere, I think it's about 60 people that have been killed in these ships. Someone can fact check me on that. That I might be, my number might be high. I'm not sure. But why is he bombing these ships in international waterways, which should be clear for any type of travel because these waterways don't belong to anyone? But he's bombing these ships from Venezuela. Can you show me the connection between Venezuela and Nigeria? Oh no, it isn't. It isn't color, even though Venezuela, let's just say, I refer to them as bronze-skinned people. Okay, Nigeria, black-skinned people and brown-skinned people. Okay, maybe small connection there, but that's not what I'm after. And Bernice Redden said, and that's correct, my idea is he's bombing Nigeria as a dictator would to take their resources. What do you think? How do you think, just historically speaking, Israel was overrun by Alexander the Great? Yeah, that's the history. That was Alexander the Great. What do you think? What do you think? What was the guy, the short and statue guy, Napoleon? What do you think dictators did? What do you think those wars in the Crusades were all about? Dictators go in and seize territory because of the resources, and then colonize the territory. What do you think England did? And how do you think they acquired those huge diamonds that make up the royal family's quote unquote diamond collection and all that sort of thing? England doesn't have diamond mines. Those diamonds came from Africa. That's what dictators do, to steal the resources. Venezuela has the definite article, the only one of its class, the largest oil producing reserves, wells, pumps in the ground in the world. Venezuela. So I think this president is attempting to get them to respond in war, knowing it's a small country. And I forget the president's name of Venezuela. I had it in the back of my mind, but we're going somewhere with this. To get them to war, just like Nigeria, so you have a legitimate reason. See, that's what propagandists do. Allow me to, I'm going to keep this picture on the screen because I just want to talk for a minute. Going back to the picture now, you all are being very quiet anyway. This propagandist post appeared by the president at the U.S. Department of State. I think so. This had to be Sunday, yesterday, I want to say. A new era, and you might not be able to read it, a new era of peace through strength. Huh? This is what I refer to as classic, and please excuse me here, YouTube, Trumpism. I coined the word, Trumpism. This is the idea of telling people not to believe what they see or hear and see, but what the government, what your president tells you to believe. Don't believe your lying eyes, he would say. This administration would say, just believe that's the president. You see, this is directly what constitutes this idea of propaganda, propaganda, propaganda. What is it? What is propaganda? Information, ideas, or rumors deliberately spread widely to help or harm a person, group, movement, institution, nation, etc. As I've said to you many times, this is directly a page from the book of whom? The authoritarian of all times, Adolf Hitler, better understood as Hitler's evil reign over Germany. You see, the idea of propaganda is whoever controls the narrative will repeat a lie over and over until it begins to sound like the truth. So this man has bombed the nation of Nigeria. He's arming Israel, and this is not the Israel of the Bible, where he's Cyrus, and he's arming the chosen people of God. And God says, whoever helps Israel, whoever blesses Israel, he will bless. Whoever curses Israel, he will curse. That is not the Israel of the Bible. There's another story for another day. But Israel is continuing to slaughter innocent Palestinians, their brothers, and this country is financing them, or supporting them. Then again, you have this rewarding of aggression on this, just to say the national stage. Let's say this partnership, if you will, with Putin and Russia. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? I mean, what are you all saying over here? Let me come over here. I'm closing up. I'm closing this down. I'm shutting it down. All right, here I am back. All right. So what are you all saying? Let's just see. Are we having a good time yet? Yes, Venezuela. Thank you, Charles. He says it's all about a takeover on his part. This is what authoritarians do. This is what fascists do. Venezuela is about oil, as you stated. The area around Nigeria is also rich in uranium. Yes, this is what I mean. This is the point, yes, which is used in the composition of nuclear weapons. Veronica Jackson, thank you. Yes, Nicolas Maduro is the president of Venezuela. Thank you, Veronica. I needed that. Yes, he's attempting to get these smaller nations to respond to you. What is it? Don't poke the bear. He's poking the bear. Now, allow me to just close this up because I think we've spent enough time. Hear this now. And so he says he is a man of peace. He says, he make the statement, a new era of peace through strength. That's propaganda. You know, where are we? You still have this international bully that this United States is attempting, who is coming across the world as being. We've lost NATO allies because of this president. And when anyone loses the Canadians who have been allies, and I can't remember how long, but probably 60, 70, 80 years or better, NATO allies of the United States, and Canada pulls. If you can't get along with the Canadians, man, so we're in a. How can you be a man of peace and yet be unstable, reckless, a laughing stock in many people's mindset, unserious, just a threat to everything, including just simply the East Wing? Look at that. This is a picture of the country. This is a picture, his demolition of the East Wing that has existed for probably 100 years or better, demolished, hole in the wall now, is a picture of race relations in this country, the angst, the separation, the lack of polarity in this country. See, when governments begin to openly lie to their people, be on the lookout. Democracy then is generally up for grabs. Here's what I mean by that. This is to all my Black MAGA people. I implore you not to let these people insult your intelligence. Oh man, I almost said something that's really would come across as strong. I have to work on that a little bit because people may see me as a hater, and I'm not. I just want you to know the truth. How can I protect myself? Believe what it is you read. Believe what it is you see. Believe the facts, not the one's presentation of the facts. And then be able to call a lie a lie. It was business philosopher Jim Rohn who made the statement, sincerity is not a test of truth. We must not make this mistake. He must be right. He's so sincere. It is possible to be sincerely wrong. We must judge truth only by the truth, and sincerity as a separate issue by sincerity. As God in his book of truth, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7, that says, just as there's a time to be silent, there's also a time to speak. We cannot afford to be silent from our various platforms any longer. Some would say to me, silence is golden. To them, I would say only until one's family and friends are negatively affected by wrongdoing. Others would say silence is great. And I would retort to them by saying, until someone's voice becomes necessary to save your life or corroborate your innocence. Others would say silence is compromise. I would say these are my closing Georgisms for the last Silence of Our Friends for this year. You all type something in the comment section before you leave. Use your emoji. Give some reaction, if you will. And here it is. You'll hear me say this for the last time this year. I'll say it some more next year. Silence is compromise. Silence is complicity with erroneous thinking. Silence is agreement with sanitized history. Silence is co-signing with racist, control, bigoted, and supremacy mentality. Silence is equity and fairness in reverse. Silence robs supremacy of ever hearing the truth and having the opportunity to change. Silence is the voice of continuous ethnic mistreatment. Silence validates inferior treatment. Silence is the approval of being objectified and maligned. Silence is often mistaken for agreement and consent. Silence is the devastation of a child being uncontrolled, untrained, and undisciplined by its, you guessed it, silent parents. Silence is one level of maintaining and perpetuating cloaked ignorance. Silence is the ostrich syndromes. Black, bronze, and brown children must know how to correctly respond to racism, which they can only know when we are not silent. Truth does not require error to be silent in order to be in control. Error, however, demands the silence and silencing of truth in order to take control of and dictate any situation. Speaking the truth is not the crime, withholding it is. And here's your one out for silence. Yes, be silent only if speaking serves to boost your ego or to seek validation. Until next year, 2026, we'll all come to you hopefully every other week or at least monthly with the Silence of Our Friends. I wish for you and pray for you and your family a blessed and very seriously prosperous new year, year 2026. I have a theme. Yes, we're going to continue with that, make it a sub theme now, thriving. 2025, not merely surviving was our theme for this year, 2025. We talked about last year, 24-hour turnarounds in year 2024. Those will always and forever be serious sub themes. But next year, and I'm going to share a message this coming Wednesday at the New Life campus. Both of our churches are invited. Last week, Christmas service. The Christmas service was held at the Calvary campus. This week, it'll be the New Year's service. And man, you want to be present. Yes, there are going to be giveaways, big cash giveaways. You're going to want to be there. Refreshments will be there as well. And of course, I have a message that is going to open up the year 2026. I've been spoken to by the Lord about this next year and how we can activate and acclimate the things that God has for us. And I'm going to open it up 2026, the eve, New Year's Eve, going into New Year's Day. And you can come to our website and pick up the times. I'm not exactly sure. Don't try to keep all that in my mind. Your mind is for creation and creativity. Your digital platform of digital devices are for remembrances. So there's someone they can tell you what time the service is. I think it's at 6 o'clock or 7. I'm not sure. So I don't want to give out bad information. So if you know it, you can type it in the chat. People can see it. And then make sure and share this even after we close it up tonight so other people can know we were here because people are still adjusting to our new schedule. So I'm going to leave the chat open for just a moment and close out with Alicia Keys with our closing anthem. Blessings and peace to you.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound like